This was supposed to be the season to remember for funny car legend John Force. He was coming off an unprecedented 14th NHRA championship. His daughter Ashley was moving into a funny car for John Force Racing. And former crew members turned drivers Robert Hight and Eric Medlin now had the experience to compete for championships. With Force nearing the end of a prolific career, he had prepared a funny car empire fit for his next generation of drivers. The first race of the season at Pomona would serve as the backdrop for Force's 24-year-old daughter's funny car debut. It would be Dad, however, who looked like the rookie, going into the final session of qualifying not in the field. To qualify, John Force needed to bump out daughter Ashley.
John Force of 470 goes to second. Ashley, thanks Dad, is out, but she's coming up next. John Force, to a standing ovation of the crowd, made it back to the line. But the focus is going to be on Ashley. Can she make it back into this field? Oh, yeah. Ashley is in.
Okay. That's my baby.
Special moment indeed.
I can't even explain how emotional this is. I've watched Chad for years, but to be there and you root for him, but you know he'll bump you. This is a great moment just to make it and have Dad make it into.
You're a pro now.
Thank you.
John's dream of the future was now. 5 weeks later, the dream turned into a nightmare when Eric Medlin died as the result of an accident during testing. The accident came one day after a final career round win against his boss and mentor. Eric Medlin was 33. The loss of the son he never had was devastating to Force.
I always joked on my TV show the monster was out there. Well, he jumped right in the front seat with Eric. He was the lead guy to my next generation of drivers. I've only met a few in my lifetime that just love to drive a race car that much, that he would drive for free. It's not about money. He just loved it.
The team sat out the Houston race but returned in Las Vegas, still reeling from an unthinkable loss. And John failed to qualify for the first time since 1987.
And Beckman bumps John Force out. The streak, 395, and it ends there.
They still love John Force.
But Force's son-in-law, Robert Hight, carried the torch for Team Force all the way to an emotional winner's circle.
I'm not going to mention any sponsors today because Eric used to do that for everybody, enough anyway. But I want to tell you about the people I work with. John Force, Eric Medlin. When I won Indy last year, I got back and John kept saying, "You won Indy, all right." He says, "I hope someday Eric can win Indy." And then, you know what? Eric did more than win Indy. He made everyone around him happy and smile. That's a true champion.
Adding to an already emotional season, John watched daughter Ashley at times struggle taming the 7,000 horsepower monster.
Well, and Ashley tries to stay with it until it finally gets totally sideways, and then she catches the wall. And the motor's still running. And finally it stops. The body all askew.
Oh, pretty amped up there for a while, John, but reality's kind of starting to set in. You feeling okay?
I feel good. I'm glad that she's okay. This can be a learning experience for her, but I love that kid. I can see it in her eyes. She wants to race. I know her mom and her sisters are okay, and tell her daughter, her sister Adria at home, she's fine, Adria. And Autumn, she's okay. And
John Force looks like he is terribly distressed by that moment. A lot of pressure on that man.
John himself struggled, scoring a meager 2 round wins through the first 10 races. His fight for a 15th championship would most certainly have to wait until next year. Or would it? Suddenly, on a July Sunday in Bristol, Tennessee, things began to turn around.
Oh, yeah. John Force finally shows the winner's circle.
this is Eric Medlin's trophy. I'm going to give it to his dad. Kid was the greatest driver, all hard of all time. I just loved him. And like he'd say today, Force, quit your whining, get out there and hurt some feelings. Eric Medlin, I know you're watching me. You beat up the lead. We got our trophy.
Force was reborn, and so were his once distant championship hopes. He would go to the final in 4 of the next 5 races, winning 2 and clinching a spot in the countdown to the championship.
My old hot rod's starting to go to B, all A to B, starting to learn how to drive again, and it's just been a great day. Even though I got my tail end kicked, right? We're in the chase.
The countdown to the championship began at the biggest race of the year in Indianapolis, the Mack Tools U.S. Nationals. But before any cars hit the track, Team Force took time to remember their fallen friend, Eric Medlen. John Medlen unveiled a life-size bronze statue of his late son that stands outside a brand-new facility in Brownsburg, Indiana. The building houses the Eric Medlen Project, a museum celebrating Medlen's life, as well as serving as a research and development center to initiate and implement safety innovations in drag racing.
We're taking the data that we're acquiring as we run the cars down the racetrack. We're evaluating what happened to Eric and his crash, and we're going to turn that into a life-saving circumstance for the drivers in the future.
Something has to come out of the loss of Eric Medlen. And if we can save thousands in the course of the next 100 years, well, then we've done something good.
At the race, Force further honored Medlen by carrying Eric's team colors from his 6 career wins. However, Force's championship hopes suffered a major setback as he failed to qualify at the U.S. Nationals for the first time since 1984.
It's tough. This is a big race. This is what you want to be a part of it. Like I said, you got to earn the right to be in this race. And I got 14 championships. I got nothing to be ashamed of, but I'm going after 15. Don't think we're not.
Force plummeted from 3rd to 6th in the points and was once again considered a long shot. 2 races later at Dallas, Force was in 7th place and out to prove the naysayers wrong. He had just watched his daughter Ashley advance to the semifinals, and if he could get past Kenny Bernstein, it would set up a potential father-daughter battle in the finals. Force, still racing with Eric Medlen's paint scheme, scored the round win and moved into the coveted 4th spot in the countdown, but not without paying a major price.
Well, John was a little late. And John, big crash. John has a problem with his car. He comes across, he hits Bernstein. Both cars continue on. John's car is torn well up. And there is where the seat is, back in behind the wheels. This is frightening.
Yeah, you hate to see that. I mean, especially all that damage. God, all we can hope is that John's okay.
It was the most severe crash of Force's storied career as he suffered a dislocated wrist, a broken ankle, a deep cut in his right knee, several broken fingers and toes.
He's talking, and I told him I was there and Ashley's there and he's calling for Robert, so I think his legs are, I don't know, maybe his legs are broken and he looks a little bloody everywhere.
Interestingly, it was another Force protege and former teammate, Tony Pedregon, who went on to win that Dallas race.
I'm going to try to get through this one. It's a big day. Anytime the Pedregon brothers can get in the final, I get a little emotional because I know John's going to be okay, but I'm going to stick around town. It's probably the first time anybody's ever dedicated a trophy to him, but I'm going to stay in town. I'm going to go see my friend if they'll let me in there. Hope he's okay.
Ironically, when Tony Pedregon left John Force Racing to start his own team, Eric Medlen filled the vacated seat. Force credits the safety changes his team and John Medlen instituted following the death of Eric Medlen for saving Force's life. However, for the time being, Force is relegated to the role of cheerleader, rooting for his son-in-law Robert Hight to take home the 16th championship for John Force Racing. It would be the perfect end to a heart-wrenching season and a trophy earned by everyone at John Force Racing, including Eric Medlen.